I believe the volume, the something is on mute.
I don't know why.
I've just noticed.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Hello, hello, hello. Are we together? Can you hear me? If you can unmute. Good morning, everyone. Sorry, good afternoon, everyone. You're welcome. Power issue, but if you can hear me, the light will soon come on. That's typical of our Nigerian situation. So you're once again welcome to the CPEG commemoration of the International Day of Peace. And today we are actually going to be we're going to be listening to a number of speakers who have selected topics, and I'm hoping that you're going to stay with us all through today. So a brief introduction. Today is the International Day of Tolerance, and this started with the goal of educating educational institutions and the general public to see tolerance as a staple of the society. It came after the United Nations Declaration of a Year for Tolerance in 1995. Tolerance is respect for and freedom rights. People use this day to look at as an opportunity to speak about human rights issues, laws, as well as the need for people to learn about respecting and recognizing the rights and beliefs of others. Today, I keep saying speaking, we're going to be listening to 4 speakers drawn out from different drawn out from different sectors of our economy. And one of them is actually Miss Nella Andem-Rabana, SAN. She's a senior advocate of Nigeria, chartered fellow of the Institute of Arbitrators, as well as a life bencher of the Body of Benchers and a former Attorney General of Cross River State. We also have Ms.
What have you printed?
Simi Shoda issues. I'm so sorry, we're having technical issues at our operational office here, but it's been fixed. I was earlier on introducing what we do as an organization. So basically, CPEG is a civil society organization. It works in three-pronged areas. We work in peace, the peace sector, where we are an advocate for peace, good governance, celebrating the International Day of Tolerance, like so many other people are, we want to use our voice, want to lend our voice to the celebration, because tolerance is actually a respect for other people's rights and their freedom. It's also giving us an opportunity to ensure that people learn about recognizing the rights and beliefs of others, irrespective of ours. In the famous words of Nelson Mandela, he said, "No one is born hating another person because of the color of their religion or their background." Speakers who will be doing justice to the topic. And we have one of them is Miss Nella. We also have SAN, sorry, she's the Senior Advocate of Nigeria. We also have Miss Simi Shoda, who is a Senior Program Officer in National Orientation Agency. We also have Mr. Mevon Jr., as well as Mr. Abdullahi, who both of them are going to be speaking on the religious aspects of our program today. So without further, I would invite our first speaker. Let me introduce her. Doing that when our lights went So she is the former Attorney General of Cross River State. She is Miss Nella Andem-Rabana, SAN. Thank you. Welcome, ma'am. Please, I invite you onto the stage now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
It is good afternoon. I'm trying to
please, I would ask us to be a bit patient so that we can sort out the network issues that I believe our lead speaker currently is experiencing. So this is quite typical. I'm hoping that, okay, she's back on. She's back on, okay.
But can you hear me? That is the problem. I am on, but I can't, I don't know if you can hear me.
We can hear you clearly, ma'am.
I can hear you very well, madam. You can go on.
You are on mute. You're on mute, ma'am. Please unmute yourself.
All right.
Great.
Wonderful. It is my pleasure to be given the opportunity to speak. I want to believe that I have 20 minutes, and I'm hoping that I would cover the field as quickly as possible. As has been, but let me actually commend CPEG, because I believe that this is a very critical and important day, recognized internationally. And I think it started, or the first time it was proclaimed and declared was in 1995 in Paris, where UNESCO, in one of its General Assembly meetings, decided that along the lines of the UN Charter, it would secure the successive generations by teaching, enlightening, and bringing into their consciousness the need for tolerance. And the beauty is that when you, even though Nigeria is a member state of the United Nations, it has to domesticate these laws. And it has even gone beyond that to ensure that the human rights of every Nigerian citizen is enshrined in the Constitution. In the Constitution, you have in Chapter 4, the fundamental rights, and then the fundamental rights as it relates to the political and civil rights. Right to expression, rights to association, movement, and all of that. But Chapter 2, which is the socio-economic, falls within the fundamental directives. And ordinarily, that chapter is not justiciable. In other words, if your right is infracted as it relates to your social rights, equal opportunities, they throw the Constitution at you by saying that it is not justiciable, you can't go to court. But I believe that that is going to change, because we are actually in court to say that it is not that it is interdue. The National Assembly has actually made laws that make it now a right for to be enforced that government will distribute our resources equitably. So that is an understanding. Now, because if they're sharing the slides, there was a quote by Pearl Buck, and that quote says, "The young do not know enough to be prudent." And then, have you seen that? Beautiful. I think it's page 2. Jump after the content, it will be prudent, and therefore they attempt the impossible. They achieve it generation after generation. This quote is by Pearl Buck. She had missionaries and grew up in China, but she's an American. The first exercise, because I like things to be interactive, I have 2 questions for you before going further. If it's possible, and if the facility exists, I would like to know how many people are on in. And the second question would be whether you agree with the statements. In other words, is it true that the youth are not prudent because they don't know enough?
Hello, Ma, if you can hear
Yes
me.
or no. Then the third part is it true that notwithstanding the fact that they don't know enough, they are. I can hear you. Hello, I can hear you. Did you want to ask me a question?
Yes, we didn't get the second part. We only got the first part clearly. So it's like the network is not very, it's fluctuating. So we got the first question, which says how many participants are under the age of 30. The second one wasn't clear at all.
Good. Okay. The second question was on the 3. Pearl Buck said that young people do not know enough, and so they are not prudent. But she says that they attempt, and therefore they attempt the impossible. Yet they achieve. Do you agree? Yes or no? So have we gotten the questions?
Now the third one, please, if you could go over.
Have we gotten the questions?
We have 2 questions now. The third one, please. You had a third question.
Wow.
The network is quite bad.
Well, the third question was very punk.
We can't hear you, ma. So because we can't hear her, it's also delayed for her to hear us.
The impossible. I can hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me?
Okay. Now I can hear you, but earlier on I didn't hear you. We didn't get the third question. I don't think anybody got the third question.
The third question was whether she is correct in saying that the youth achieve the impossible.
Okay.
So those are the 3 questions.
Okay.
And the reason is I
would encourage our participants to please respond to these 3 questions using the type-in box. So if you look at the right-hand corner at the bottom of your screen, there is an option for more. When you click on it, you can see raise your hand or send a message. So kindly use any of these options to respond to the questions that have just been raised. The 3 questions I'll repeat again are: 1, how many of us currently participating are under the age of 30? Is it true that the quote by youth are not prudent? And then question 3, is it true that the youth are able to achieve the impossible? So those are the 3 questions that I need us to respond to using the more option at the bottom right-hand corner on your screen. Thank you.
Lovely. So I'm going to
go ahead.
Fantastic. Yes, because I'll pick them up towards the end of the class, by which time you probably would see where I'm going with this. Now, I want to commend again Sepet, because at a time like this, and also even the foresight of the United Nations, because it is amazing to think that at the beginning of the year, or possibly even at the end of last year, they decided that the tag for Tolerance Day for 2020 was going to be unleashing the power of the youth, or the youth power, only for us to be confronted with SARS, which has completely plummeted, and SARS, which has completely plummeted our economy and caused a lot of tension. And then, of course, you had COVID-19, which nobody could have anticipated. So the timing And the aptness of this topic is simply unimaginable. And for that, I thank the organizers and the management for making this opportunity available for us to share our thoughts on a very, very fundamental and sensitive matter. Now, I'm going to skip so that they can maybe possibly go to the introduction. You know, I have mentioned the fact, just so that I do not repeat what was said already, that tolerance, first and foremost, is appreciation and respect for diversity. And the pluralism in Nigeria is what we are different people in one pot, just like South Africa. But you can harness it, it can cause you to be a stronger nation, it can divide and diminish your potential. Now, what the beauty of this topic is when you put on one side the impact of tolerance and the fact that when you inculcate in your citizens a mentality and an attitude of respect for other people's values, other people's identity, other people's lifestyle, other people's opinion, then what you are doing is you are promoting peace, you are promoting development, and you are promoting security on the other side. But what I've tried to do is to locate these issues in the 60% and above number of youths, which happens to be the target. Globally, youth are over 50%. In Africa, we are over 65% youth. The continent is a very young continent. And therefore, the workforce is comprised of the productive workforce is 65% youth. So it is critical to discuss and locate where we are in terms of being able to unleash the power of the youth. Now, when you look at the word unleash, because of the climate we are operating, mayhem, unleash terror, unleash war, unleash anger. But that's not the sense in which the United Nations chose the word unleash. Unleash also presupposes something that is locked in, something that you unlock and release the power, you release the potential, and you release the benefit, all locked up in 65% of our workforce, of our productive workforce and population. So I find the topic most vivid because it gives us an opportunity to see whether the Nigerian continent, the Nigerian nation, with all its potential, whether or not it has adopted the strategies that will ensure that its youth are able to unleash, I prefer to say to unlock their potential and their inherent power. I think we can move very quickly to to what I call large numbers. As you would recollect, I chose my topic was tolerance, so we know what it's about. But I looked at the youth, which I call the large numbers. I looked at the challenges, which I reflect as those things that make it difficult to unleash the power, the youth power. And finally, I made recommendations, which I call great possibilities. Now, if you look at the large numbers, I say that when you think about youth, you think about large numbers. There are many, they are a force. But they are a force that should know that they are a force. They are a force that should know their place in society. They are a force that even they and government and every other person should know that for their survival and sustainability in terms of progress, in terms of development, in terms of security, because they are the actors, their potential should be unlocked, should be unleashed. And just for completeness, I mentioned that the Economic Cooperation and Development, the African Development Bank, and even Bloomberg agree that the figures that people under the age of account for are about 60%. And that was the reason why I wanted to know how many people were participants were under the age of 30. I also noted that the United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization defined young persons as people between the ages of 15 and 24. However, in Nigeria, by the definition of the NYC, you are eligible to participate as a young person or a youth up to the age of 30. Therefore, my prayer is that we would have at least over 60% of our participants falling within this age bracket, because this exercise is really for targeted at them, but for the benefit of even the older generation. Because if you do not go back, if you do not, no matter how successful you are, when you don't have a succession plan, your success is short-lived. I now went on to talk about the challenges, because the real issue, the reason why you had NSAS was because of challenges. The reason why you have all sorts of violence and friction is because there is a general either misunderstanding or apprehension, knowledge of the perspective and the opinion and the attitude of the other perceived group, which could be government, which could be adults, because as it is now, there's a lot of conversation about generational gaps. And these are all sources of tension. But primarily, if your mind is not liberated and open enough to at least even listen to what the other man has to say, intolerance breeds. And when it breeds, it threatens national integration, it threatens development, and most especially, it threatens much peace that this topic, I'm sure, resonates in all aspects of the work they do. And again, I say kudos to them. Now, the huge challenges that have occurred as a result of the vast shift in social dynamics of Nigeria. It even has become worse. It became worse because of the COVID-19 pandemic, which we are beginning to sound as if it has finished, but which I pray that we know it is still continuing. Our prayer, and thank God we have men of God and imams, will pray very well that it will not get worse and we will not have a second wave. And in fact, God will push it back to where it came from. But the reality on ground is that people still have the virus, and therefore we are not out of the woods yet. Now, as if that was not even enough, we now had NSAS, and of course that is history. We know what happened. We also know what happened in various states, including my state. I am from Cross River State, where the mayhem and carnage was completely unbelievable. But it was a reflection of the anger that has been bottled in the youth especially, because everybody, they say hoodlum. I don't know who is hoodlum, but I know that hoodlum is not a synonym of youth. The only thing is that who are the people who are active? Who are the people who are in the office? Who are the productive people? And who are the people who have energy to run if somebody chases them? It's the youth. Therefore, I took time to highlight some of the root causes that have occasioned the challenges which threaten peace and which are fallouts of intolerance. Intolerance is your inability to also take into consideration what is important to me. Yeah. Unemployment. If the youth constitute 65% and yet the unemployment level is as low as it has become, and there are no opportunities for them, poverty is unimaginable and biting in that generation, and there's lack of access to social structure such as healthcare, good education, access to justice, poor and non-existent physical infrastructure, by which I mean roads, markets, and all such infrastructural facilities. If I go and farm and I do not have any way to get out my wares, or if I need to go to work from one part of town to the other and we don't have a good network of transportation, these are all the things that impede, and you don't even have light. So even if you want to start on just providing light, those are the kinds of issues that have manifested in severe forms of insecurity, absence of free and fair and credible elections, political discrimination, and marginalization and exclusion. I emphasized marginalization and exclusion because women are feeling marginalized, youths are feeling completely excluded. If you are not sitting on the table when decisions are being taken and policies are being articulated and implemented that affect you directly, you are excluded. Your viewpoint will not be seen. It's like somebody of 60 years talking about the entertainment industry or the digital economy. A lot of us, including myself, find technology rather daunting. It doesn't come to me naturally. But the younger ones, it comes to them naturally. So why don't you put them, and they are the ones that are perpetually on their phone, internet browsing and all sorts of things. Why don't you put them in a position where they can master the trade, master the technology, and not generation as opposed to other countries and the provisions that they are making available for them. Now, I also spoke about the possibilities. What are the possibilities? Those possibilities sentence would be the various ways you can unleash the youth power. Those are the great possibilities, because given that the impact on the youth has the greatest cumulative impact on your GDP, on development, on human capital, then if there is a strategic and deliberate program in place to ensure that the youth, that there are cross-cutting empowerment programs. A lot of what was complained about is that that their future has been swallowed up by corruption. that they are given an opportunity to, they run an election, they know who they voted, and somebody is supplanted on them as their candidate, and he goes somewhere and doesn't even remember them. They're angry. Because yes, NSAS was targeted at the brutality of the police. But in the end, it was clear that the issue was that they wanted good governance, full stop. Why do you want good governance? Because you want your voice to be heard and be counted. You don't want fraud governance because you want to be respected, your opinion to matter, your opinion to be sought. There should be consultation that will include you. The only one time that there was confab where youths were involved, nothing was implemented. So we don't really know what they suggested. How many minutes do I have left so I can be guided? Because I don't want to be carried away.
In fact, your time is actually up. If you could round up now, and then we'll come back to your questions later, so that the other speakers
can speak.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So then I think in a second I'll just say primarily that education is the most effective means of preventing intolerance. Therefore, a deliberate educational policy to develop a curriculum that will include and highlight root causes of conflict, such as fraudulent elections, corruption, exclusion of youths, will be necessary. And it will also conversely show you what the symptoms are. And the symptoms is fear, apathy, violence, insurrection, and disharmony. And unleashing the youth power by educating and training and grooming youths to have a mentality of entrepreneurship and leadership is critical. That is one way you can unleash their power. And finally, training and educating them to be able to cope with technology and digital economy is of critical importance. Therefore, my final and parting words, sorry for extending, is that any step to foster tolerance by any of us, and preferably by all of us, would enable quantum leaps in the development of humanity, in the promotion of peace, and in the guarantee of sustainable development. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ma'am. Discussion was very, very interesting. I picked up a few points, and we will be sharing the slides with all participants after this meeting. One point that you said that really stuck out was the fact that the youths are excluded. Yes, we are excluded, and that's why a lot of times the issues, the challenges that you have mentioned are things that actually, if we, do the reverse counter, this help welcome the second speaker, who is Miss Simi Shoda. She is the Senior Program Officer at National Orientation Agency. She's actually working with the Department of Orientation and Behavioral Modification. She's also, she has a background in psychology, conflict, peace, and security, as well as a law background. So she has an LLM in law and dispute resolution. She's going to be talking to us about the government perspective, looking at the team, unleashing youth power. Welcome, Ms. Simi. We're looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nafisa. Very good afternoon to all of you. Thank you. The first speaker actually has done everything that I think the rest of us would just have to just listen and contribute a little bit. She had picked up on almost everything that I needed to speak. So let me just begin by thanking you all for having us on this platform today. And let me begin also by congratulating the convener of the program, Corporate Sheriff Molade, and his team for their consistency and great passion in the work that they do. Just last year, we joined them in celebrating 10th anniversary of the Center for Peace and Environmental Justice with series of lectures. I attended the 2 or 3 days meeting last year with eminent Nigerians and also international organizations who shared their experience and knowledge with us. This year, another opportunity has been presented to us to critically look at the aspect of tolerance. And interestingly, it is one of the core values of National Orientation Agency. The Oxford Dictionary has defined tolerance as the capability or ability to endure existence of opinions. I think, hello, okay. I'm not sure if you can hear me.
We can hear you.
Thank you. Opinions or behaviors that, present itself unpleasantly. In the history of man, really, we all agree that there has never been total peace at any time. However, man has always had a cause to argue, quarrel, struggle, or fight for issues or common interests. It is key for us to remember that when such instances arise, we are enjoined to endure whatever is seemingly unpleasant, even if it's opinions, values, or belief of others. Especially at this time, if I may, never before we need peace in our land, in Nigeria. We need to respect the culture, religion, and even opinions of people in our discussions, our deliberations, and interactions with others. The National Orientation Agency has been on the forefront in addressing issues of hate speech, fake news, and misinformation, which usually triggers intolerance. The agency has embarked on nationwide peace building, sensitization, and advocacy campaign against hate speech and intolerance, which focus on youths and leaders of this federation. Why did I say leaders? The first speaker has made a clear example of the NSAS. It is between the leadership, and the vision was actually geared towards the leaders. So why are we speaking to the leaders? We have come to terms with whenever there is a problem, we have seen that the issue that we always have, especially in Nigeria, is the gap in between communication. So we are preaching today or campaigning today that any gap that is being led, it is usually taken advantage of. So we're calling upon the general public and especially government in information sharing to be timely. Let responses be timely in order not to trigger intolerance. Also, it is pertinent to note that while freedom of information as well as expression is encouraged, it must be carried out with appropriate manner, not to trigger negative information which will lead to disunity. Therefore, we call on the youth of our great nation, Nigeria, to utilize the power of the media to unleash their presence. However, this must be portrayed with peace, unity, and faith. It is also necessary to add here that while communicating, we must remain patriotic, disciplined, tolerant, and accommodating. At this point, I would like to thank you for allowing us to speak in this event and wish us a successful Tolerance Day celebration. Allow me to kindly end with this brief note by Reverend Kuka, who has shared on tolerance and peace coexistence. To him, discussion of peaceful coexistence does not call for lengthy intellectual theories. He observed that our forefathers, in their tolerance, lived together, shared joy, sorrows, and even laughter, while they kept their religion and culture within them. They left it within them, but shared the joy with others. I pray that we take a cue out of this. And once again, thank you for extending the hand of friendship to NOA, as you have always done, and continue in the path of tolerance and peaceful coexistence. Good afternoon.
Thank you so much, Ms. Simi. Thank you so much. She just highlighted the very important aspect National Orientation Agency of Nigeria is ensuring that they actually imbibe the culture of tolerance, helping with information with regards to intolerance, hate speech, fake news, as well as spreading or misinformation. And she also highlighted the fact that a lot of times tolerance with the youths particularly is either lack of communication or misinformation. Thank you so much, Ms. Simi. Before we go ahead to our next speaker, I would like to remind us of the participants that our lead speaker, Ms. Nella Andem, she actually asked us 3 questions. So we are collating responses, which we are going to touch on at the end of this discussion. The three questions goes first. How many of us here now, how many participants are under the age of 30? Is it true that the youths are not prudent? She shared a quote earlier on with Madam Pearl Buck, who said that the youths are not prudent, and as such, we are not able. We are we go ahead and not prudent. And then thirdly, is it true that the youths achieve the impossible? Thirdly, is it true that the youths achieve the impossible? Question 2 and 3, you can give a yes or no answer. And then question 1, you just say yes if you are above 30 and no if you are under 30. You can use the the more option on the bottom right side of your responses to those questions. Go on, we're going to be listening to Mr. Mevon Samuel Jr., who is the MD CEO of MOP Consulting Limited. Interestingly, he's also a pastor. What he's going to be talking to us about is that how is religion affecting the context of tolerance for the Nigerian youth? How is religion affecting the context of tolerance for the Nigerian youth? Welcome, Mr. Mevon. You may go ahead now. Thank you for joining us today.
Good afternoon, Nafi. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I want to wish everyone first happy World Day.
Thank you.
I also want to thank Sipej for this great opportunity to be able to join wonderful speakers and hear my voice in the topic concerning tolerance. I've attentively listened to the first and second speakers. They have done justice to the topic. So in the next few minutes, I will just be adding my voice from both as an entrepreneur, secondly as a man slightly above 30, and thirdly as a religious personality, being a pastor. Can you hear me? Hello there.
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. Now I want to first start. If you check the origin from the Christian perspective for the Bible, when in Genesis, the Bible spoke of how the creation story, how God created man. If you check at it critically, you discover that God created, there was humanity before man created religion. It was never recorded anywhere that God created religion. It was man that made religion. God only created man first, humanity.
Hello, can you hear us, Mr. Mevon?
Man in turn created the star and the God factor. That God. Yes, are you?
Okay, we lost you for a bit, but
okay.
But we can hear you now.
Okay. Everybody who understands the God factor knows that God is not a lover. God is not a loving God. God is the love. As youth and as a people who understand or who acclaim that is serving God, whatever way you serve the God, you must first of all know that God is love. And what is love? Love is the ability to be able to identify the weakness of another and overlook it while focusing only on the strength. That is how I define love. That's my own definition. It's the ability to overlook at the weakness of another person, concentrating only on the strength, and take maximum utilization of the strength. Everyone has a weakness, everyone has deficit. I used to tell people, if you don't like fat people, there's no need saying it. There will be fat people, there will be slim people. The daughter of an elephant can never be slim, no matter the exercise. So people are different, and naturally, everybody is different, created differently for their assignment. So you cannot go around trying to impose what you don't want on anybody. Religion, denomination has done more damage to humanity than even the essence of creation. Even among Christian faiths, there are denominations that don't agree with each other. This is a sign that love is not there, because if you understand the love factor, which begets the ability for you to tolerate anybody, you discover that God himself is love. So if you claim that it is God you serve, then you must put love first, which is mostly important. So religion has greatly affects tolerance. People have used word of mouth to try to discredit other religions. This is not so. Everybody has the right of association because we are all humans here on earth. Nobody can swear for sure whether God is happy with him or not. It is only the Almighty God who knows those that are his. It is written in the Bible. And the master of the Christian faith, Jesus Christ, while speaking in Romans chapter 12, verse 18, he was telling them, he said, it is possible to be at peace with all. He has made that no and obey that statement to the latter, that it is possible to be at peace with all men. So it is, I want to admonish everybody today, and for everybody who's also listening to us, it is very possible with people. God gave to man that angels don't have is the ability to choose. So we have choices. So respect the choice of others while you walk towards the common good of the society. Please, are you there? Have I lost you? Hello?
Hello, we can hear you. We can hear you. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Okay, because now I want to cite a scriptural example concerning of Egypt, and people came to Egypt. You understand, if you know the story very well, how he rose to become a prime minister in a strange land. It was never recorded that Joseph convinced Pharaoh to serve his God. Neither did Pharaoh convince Joseph to bow to the God of Egypt. Every one of them held their tradition steadfast, they held their belief system steadfast, but they worked together for the common good of Egypt. And Egypt's economy blossomed so well that the entire nation in Israel and all the nations around Egypt came to Egypt for succor during the famine. Pharaoh never worshipped the God of Jacob, the God of Joseph. Neither did Joseph ever bow down to the God of Pharaoh. It was never recorded. But Egypt blossomed economically because they were able to tolerate and respect each other's religion while they worked together. Of course, you know, later when a Pharaoh came who could no longer tolerate the other people, then the problem began. So the problem always arises first by human inability to quickly be irritated by other people's behavior. This feeling is not natural because, like I said, there is humanity first before religion. The feeling is not naturally made. And the good thing is that anything that is man-made, we can easily unmake it. So like you said earlier, when you quoted Nelson Mandela, that hate is learned by man and love also is learned by man. But Mandela went further to say, but the love comes naturally to the human heart. Because of course it's created by God, and the God who creates the man is love. Is the love. It's not a lover, it's not a loving God, it's the love. So I want to admonish every one of us today. You should learn as much to make excuses for people. You should make excuses for people by us. Plato, a great philosopher, said, a man does not live in isolation. Every man is a product of his environment. Plato said that a man does not live in isolation. Every man is a product of his environment. You are not the only person in this world. You are not existing alone. You are created to coexist. That is the essence of creation. So you also should make sure, by all means, if you could identify the weakness of other people, then you're already halfway gone. It's just to know that this person is weak in this area, avoid that area, and concentrate on the strength of the person. That way, we will live peacefully, we'll live without troubles, we'll live in peace as the Creator wants us to live. So in my parting words, I would like to encourage, while thanking Sipej for this opportunity, I would like to encourage everybody, please, do all you can. Do all you can.
Okay, I think, hello, we can hear you. We can hear you. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I say in my part, I would like to encourage everybody to please do all you can, as much as you can, to make excuses for people. You call somebody, the person is not picking the score, you see somebody dressed in a different way, you see somebody do stuff differently, try to make an excuse for them that, okay, maybe this is the reason why they are doing what they do, instead of judging them. Like I said, nobody can tell exactly who is for the Almighty. It is God who knows his people. So I want to admonish all of us to please, by all means, in the words of Jesus, live at peace with all men. Thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Mevon. Really insightful one there with the quotations as well as the information that you left with us at the end. Try to make excuses for everyone, irrespective of our differences. Great contributions, and I'm trying to ensure that everybody, or at least those who have something to say, get a few minutes to do so, and also give response to our first lead speaker. Without further ado, I would now invite Mr. Abdullahi Imam Ishaq to also give us the religious perspective now, looking at Islam, in the context of tolerance for the Nigerian youth. How is religion affecting the context of tolerance for the Nigerian youth? Imam, Mr. Abdullahi Imam Ishaq is the former president for Muslim Corporate Association, MCAN, and is also an invention and control expert. Forgive me, I'm speaking too fast, so I'm mixing up the words. Welcome, Mr. Abdullahi.
Thank you. First, I'd like to appreciate the center for finding me worthy to speak at this important occasion. Well,
Sir, if you could be a little bit more audible, we are struggling to hear you.
Okay, I said I'd like to appreciate the center for finding me worthy to be invited to speak at this August occasion. I'm sure this celebration couldn't have come at a time better ever now in Nigeria. So I'd like to also appreciate the first speaker, the San, and then my counterpart from the Christian perspective who has spoken and have done quite justice to the topic. I'd also want to appreciate very much the representative from NOA for bringing the quotation of Reverend Kuka. That's been one of the labels that guides the information on tolerance. However, I'd like to tell you that the opening chapter of the Quran that guides and informs about the teachings of Islam have unequivocally defined the position of knowledge and how powerful it is. It is with knowledge that you are able to understand the position of tolerance and how it can be applied so long as you are a good and ardent follower of the faith. So really, Islam is a religion whose message was delivered in 23 years. The first revelation to the end and the lifetime of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, as a prophet of Islam, was within the season of 23 years. In these 23 years, 13 of it was a year that defines obviously the true meaning of tolerance. As a delicate minority living within the walls of Mecca, in a place where you have fierce enemies that are trying to persecute the believing Muslims, who at the same time are the majority at that time. Definitely so, some people might argue that it was just patience and perseverance, or to some extent resilience, to propagate the Islamic faith. However, it is more to that, because even when the conquest of Mecca came and the Muslims were majority, and now the other parts of the people who are resident in Mecca were now in the minority class. Muslims, under the leadership of the Prophet ﷺ, treated them with patience, with peace, with compassion and forgiveness, understanding that their religion too would be established. And Allah said in the Quran that La ikraha fi din. There is no compulsion in religion, understanding that every living being have got the right to pursue whatever faith they understand or they want to profess. And then also, it is said in the Quran, وَلَا تَسُبُّوا الَّذِينَ يَدَعُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ فَيَسُبُّوا اللَّهَ عَدْوًا بِغَيْرِ عِلْمٍ. That do not return insults. In case people send insults upon you as a Muslim, you are expected to contain it, if that is in the line with what they believe. Allah says, كَذَلِكَ زَيَّنَّا لِكُلِّ أُمَّةٍ عَمَلَهُمْ. And thus we have beautified the ideology, the costumes and mannerisms of the people to themselves. Anyone that professes a particular faith must definitely see his faith as the best. So you that profess a different faith sees yours too as the best. But then the ball of contention is respecting and appreciating the diversity in the practice of each other, and understanding that pluralism is one of the very agents that creates the balancing of our universe. And Allah says, ثُمَّ إِلَىٰ رَبِّهِمْ مَرْجِعُهُمْ. And then the final line is that everyone that practices whatever faith you practice, the end point is that you are returned to your Lord, and He would now be the master judge who would appoint who's right and who's wrong, just like the pastor said. However, I differ with the pastor from the perspective that religion is man-made. In Islam, we believe the religion is created by God. It's an understanding that we follow what God wants, and by doing so, you are practicing His religion. Going forward, I must tell you that in the recent times, you see videos of bandits or Boko Haram members arrested under interrogation. They tell you that they have committed a lot of crimes in the name of God, probably in the name of Islam. But then when you ask them to recite one chapter from the Quran, their life on the bet, they can't recite it. And they continue to shout Allah Akbar, committing all sorts of heinous crimes against humanity. But then you come to understand that it is not the cause. It is not about the religion. It is not about their practice. It is about an agenda. Then it depends on who is committing the crime. You won't be able to understand what really the agenda is. But I tell you that the crime in Africa, or to localize it in Nigeria in the recent times or in the last 3, 4, 5 decades, is politically motivated, but are usually propelled from the pulpits of religion. You see men wearing the garments of God, wearing the gowns of prophecy, talking about hate, fanning into the fires of hate, and then using religion as a cover to protect whatever dynasty they've built. So I must tell you, like Reverend Kuka said, it is not about theories. It is not about concocting some sort of languages to defend the religion, that it has nothing to do absolutely with the lack of tolerance that have grown over time across Nigerian society, especially amidst the youths. It's about the ideology of the persons who are representing religion at the different fora. I must tell you that I'm a Muslim today, a young Muslim, and I have a neighbor who every Sunday would play his praise music from morning, probably 6 a.m., and he won't put it down until 2 p.m. And I want to assure you that he doesn't even go to church. So really, I have gotten used to him and understand that that is his way of practicing his faith. I could not do otherwise because of the understanding Islam has instilled in me to allow people to practice their faith in the way they so wish. I'd like to also give you a closing idea or understanding that I've developed across time, especially concerning this aspect of tolerance. The elderly, our parents, I want to say those who today are at their 70s or 80s. These are people who were born into a society of pristine peace and tolerance. I tell you that I have a friend whose family is from Doko, a part in Niger State here. And when it is Christmas time, Muslims who are part of the family follow the Christians to their churches to help them celebrate Christmas. And vice versa, they do the same when it is time for the Muslims to invent new things in family that have divided their heads and then the unity of the members of the family, unlike it used to be. So the concern sometimes is not about the youth themselves, because we are what we are of us goes as a result of the understanding or teachings we get from our family. So if your family members are not really propagating into you an understanding to respect and appreciate the differences you see across people, you might not be able to do that. And then lastly, I like the young people, the young generation now especially, to be able to differentiate between politics and religion. When it is politics and you're talking about governance, you know, the religious clergymen should be able to understand their limits and not get themselves into aspects of governance. And then the government itself should understand their limits and not intrude into the boundaries of religion. And the last NSAS protest, I'm sure it has almost to an extent divided this country across religious lines, like the burning of mosques in Abia State and other parts of the state, and then the anticipation of reactionaries from the north. I tell you that none of that activity would benefit the younger generation or would benefit them even in the nearest future. However, the greedy older people, the greedy older class are taking advantage of the strength of the youth because they know that the youth have the power to bring the nation to a standstill or to bring the nation to bow down to certain of their demands, taking advantage of it to perpetrate what is wrong in our society and then leaving us to bear the consequences in the nearest future. Because I want to assure you, any man across the age of 50, you know, riding down his grave have no consequences as much as we have in this society. So as delicate as this society is today, the right to live in peace, to bring about development and sustainable growth is left on our shoulders. We have the right to put it right, or we have the right to put it wrong. It all depends on how we play the ball. And finally, I must tell you that we should stand firm, propagating the message of tolerance, respecting the values and ideologies of one another. By doing so, I believe that we'll be able to bring the required development to our society, enjoying economic sustainability, and get some of our questions rightly answered. Thank you. I appreciate you for having me this afternoon. Good afternoon.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Abdullah. Very insightful discourse there. And one thing I'll pick from what you said that hasn't been said before is the fact that the youths are actually a product of what they are being fed. They're actually a product of what our parents have you know, given to, what the elders that we look up to have actually instilled in us. Very insightful discussion there. So we have come to the end of listening to the speakers, and we have also come to the end of collations for the questions that were out of the session by the lead speaker. Before I give the breakdown, before I give her the breakdown and allow her to come and respond to us, I would want to ask if there are any questions or contributions from any of us here. Questions, contributions from any of us here. Okay, I already see someone, Chief FFK. Chief FFK is already raising his hand. So for to save time, we'll take maybe three questions or contributions, and then we'll go to a wrap up from the lead speaker. 3 questions or contributions. Chief FFK, please go ahead, sir.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
It's a pleasure to be part of this wonderful program. And I'm so delighted, in fact, to be aware that there's a day like this, actually International Day of Tolerance. But very quickly, I don't want to believe that we don't tolerate. Much as I believe so, I want to tell people one truth. Truth is that even when you tend to show tolerance, people take advantage of you. They think you are weak. They think you are poor. They think you don't have anything. So in resistance to that, people fight back. People don't want to tolerate anymore. And I will bring this, I can just end this. Newton's third law of motion says, and I quote, that in every action, there is equal and opposite reaction. You know, that's just it. Thank you so much, and God bless us all.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Chief FFK. I do agree with you. We are very tolerant people. It comes naturally. Just like Nelson Mandela said, to love comes naturally. It is the actions, our reactions to how our tolerance is being seen, or how our kindness or love is being seen, that actually brings about counter effects. Does anyone else have a contribution or question from the audience? A contribution or question from the audience? If there is none, I will quickly give a wrap up, not a wrap up, rather, a collation, the results of the 3 questions that our lead speaker asked us. So, Madam, please, if you are with us now, I would like to give a collation so that you can respond to it. If you're with us as well as a participant and you have a question or you have a contribution, please note it. When she is done, we would call on you to ask your question or give your contribution. So for question one, we have about 60%. 60, I'm giving it in percentage, looking at the responses that came up in versus the number of participants that we have. So for question 1, how many of us are under 30? We have 60%. 60% are under 30. Then for question 2, 90% says, yes, we agree that it is true that the young people are prudent. 90% agrees that yes, it is true that the young people are prudent, while 10% of the participants of the audience says no, they do not agree that the young people are prudent. And then for question 3, 100%. So everybody agrees that the youth have been able to achieve the impossible. Nobody is negating that fact that, well, I wouldn't call it a fact, but then the statement that have the youth been able to achieve the impossible. So 100% of the respondents in the participation here agree that the youth have been able to achieve. I would hand over to you now to maybe give us like a feedback to our response to your questions, ma'am. Hello, ma. I think we're having like a network issue again.
Yes, that's network issue.
Because
she's online.
Yeah, she's on, but we can't hear her. I hope she got the last part of my feedback. So pending when she comes on, I do not know if anybody in the audience or amongst the participants have questions, feedback. Please, if you can use the more option at the right bottom corner of your screen to communicate with me, because I might not be able to see if you're raising your hand from the device I'm using. But if you can communicate with me from that area, then I can easily see you and then spotlight you for everyone to listen to you. Otherwise, be able to note or see you. So program, unfortunately, I can't even reach her. I think she's even gone off. She's gone off totally. Okay. If there are no questions or additional contributions, okay. Okay. Chief wants to. He wants to. Okay, she's back on. Awesome.
Oh,
Hold on,
can you
sir.
hear
She's
me?
back on. Yes,
Well,
we
can
can
you
hear
hear
you.
me? Oh,
Yes, ma'am.
fantastic. Yes, I was saying that in as much as we don't have up to 60% of under 30s, I think it's a good start that at least you have representation. A lot of the time, when there are gatherings like this, you find that the core youths are just not part of it. They are not engaged and they don't.
The network is really bad.
And I
Ma, if you can hear me, we haven't heard you from when you talked about the representation of those under 30. We didn't hear you afterwards.
Sorry. Hear me?
Okay, we can hear you, but it's breaking. We can hear you, but I can assure you it is not clear.
Okay, but can I start all over, but very quickly? Can you hear me now?
Awesome,
No?
awesome. Yes, please. Yes, please.
Can you?
Yes, ma'am.
Fantastic. Yes, I'm saying that I'm happy that even though we don't have up to 60% of the participants, since in my opinion, the topic is about them, but not only they talk about that an author she did quite of philosophical motivational statements. Now, even though 23, her comments is as if she were living now. And that is the vision and the profoundness of her perspectives. She said that young people do not know enough. But she said that maybe because they are not prudent, they attempt impossible things. That's the second thing. She said, who also achieve.
It's actually, wow.
Those impossibilities are feisty. You can't hear me at all. You can't hear me.
We can hear you, but half of what you're saying, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. But earlier on, nothing. Maybe if you could pass that information to us via text, and I could share it with the respondents. I don't know if that's feasible, because we hear you.
Okay, I'll just.
Okay. Okay. At this point, we will we will move on to events while I'll wait for
In writing.
Nella to send me. Oh, she's still on. Okay, the network is really poor. I don't know why I chose today because her point of discussion is actually very interesting. But the last time we spoke, it was really very clear. So I do not know what's happening today. Network is not on our side. But then if we do not have any other contributions or questions, our time is fast spent. We would like to give a closing remarks, and I would like to say thank you to everyone who has taken time out to join us today in this discussion. Now, as much as we would have loved to have like a whole lot of number of participants, we have you here. So you are a representative of your family, you are a representative of your friends, you are a representative of your colleagues. We Day for Tolerance, International Tolerance, where we celebrate tolerating each other. That question has gone on a long, especially on my own platform since morning. So it's actually important that you hear the message, you share the message, and you also embody the message. So it goes beyond just participating here. It goes in not actually enshrining those morals or those things that we have heard that actually work rightly for us in our daily lives, irrespective of our differences, our religion, our tribes, color of the skin. It is important that we actually learn to tolerate. And I would wrap up with this saying from Dalai Lama. He says that in the practice of tolerance, one's enemy is the best teacher. In the practice of tolerance, one's enemy is the best teacher, effective of the differences. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to. I will share the slides with us. If you would send like and the email you used to register for this event, we would send the slides through that email. That's the slides for the speaker's presentation, and we'll send that through to you through your email rather. Forgive me. We'll send that through your email to you. Thank you once again for coming on board, and thank you for the speakers for their very insightful discussions. It has really made today's event more colorful. Thank you, and I would call on my team for joining us from Delta State to give us the national anthem for closeout.
Thank you for